Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tony D's music channel. I'm Tony DeMeo, and I want to continue on what I started to talk about in the last video about when I saw Elton John on TV on Jay Leno's show, talking about why he loves the album as a format. Jay Leno asked him why he doesn't own an iPod. He responded accurately that he only listens to music, listening to entire albums in their entirety all at once, and he even compared it to TV, talking about the previous guest on the show, Jason Lee, who at the time was in My Name is Earl, and said he would never just watch 1 or 2 episodes of that show, but would have to watch every episode from a season. To him, an album is the same thing. It's a storytelling art form. Albums tell stories when they're made well. And thank goodness that in the 60s, we started to see albums tell full stories. And I want to talk about the different kinds of albums that I love, because there are very different kinds. For example, this is Tom Petty's second album, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, You're Gonna Get It. Now, it's a good album, but unlike future albums from the Heartbreakers, there isn't much depth to these songs. They don't really tell a full story anyway. But this is the album from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers from 2002 called The Last DJ. Now, this album was a political statement from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, where he was really writing songs about his very strong feelings about how the radio business changed, about how the music business changed. And it was the first and really only time that Tom Petty made an album that was a political polemic statement. And he was not loved for that by the critics. The album did go number 9 on charts. Number 9. But it wasn't something he did just to make money. It wasn't. He was criticizing the capitalism and the greed of the music business at that time. And I enjoy this album almost as much as any other Tom Petty album. It's probably my number 2 favorite album that he ever made. For that reason. I can enjoy an album of his that's political as much as I enjoy an album of his like Wildflowers or Echo that were both really personal to him. Some artists don't do political albums because they fear pushback from people, or they're just not really political. And that's okay. Then there are albums that I love because they're full of ballads, love songs, and they tell this full story. Like the album Avalon by Roxy Music, which is a gorgeous album. Roxy Music are a band I would describe as art rock. Listening to their albums, you feel like there's a painting going on in your head. You feel like you're in another world. And that's what you get in this album. More Than This is just pop music perfection. I'll discuss this full album in the future later on in detail. But this album, it's like you're dreaming when you put it on this album. It's a dream set to music. And talking about dreams, I want to mention this George Harrison album, 33 1/3 from 76. It was the first of his solo albums that I would describe as feel-good and joyful and happy, when his first 4 albums were definitely not that. And you don't get preachy songs about religion on here. You get 2 songs that are about spirituality, but they're not preaching in any way. They're just beautiful, feel-good songs. And you even get humorous songs on here. Like this song, all about George making fun of himself for being found guilty of plagiarism for My Sweet Lord. And George had 3 albums that I would describe as being feel-good and joyful. That album, 33 1/3, and the self-titled George Harrison album from 79, and Cloud 9, which I mentioned earlier in a different video. Those are all albums that are not preaching in any way. They're not that deep. They're just a feel-good, fun, joyful ride that you put in your ears. And similar to Roxy Music, there are other albums I love that just evoke this whole feeling of love, and it's like there's a romantic vibe in your head. And that would be the debut album from Stevie Nicks, Belladonna, which I got on special colored vinyl recently. It's blue and black. And this is the CD of that album. It's without a doubt one of my favorite albums of all time. And it's a very romantic atmosphere in this album. It's the kind of thing you could really put on when you're with a certain romantic partner, if you have that partner. I absolutely love How Still My Love. Again, I'm going to go through this album in detail later on this channel, but right now I just want to say how I love the whole feel on the album and the whole ambiance and the whole vibe that you get. As the young kids say, it's about the vibe here. And so you got a rock and roll album, a political statement, an album full of love and ballads, and just these gorgeous, gorgeous songs that sound like an audio version of the most beautiful painting ever. And then you've got songs about love, songs about relationships. Those are different kinds of albums that I just absolutely adore. So please tell me in the comment section if you agree with what I just said, if you have other kinds of albums that you love, any particular type. So please remember to like the video, share this on social media, and subscribe to the channel.